What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of Blunt Reaction. And as you can see from the title, I'm going to be telling the story of how I survived Hurricane Harvey. Now, this story takes place in August 2017. At this moment, I had barely just moved to Houston. I moved in July, so I was just there probably like a little bit over a month when Hurricane Harvey hit. And Hurricane Harvey hit in August 26th. But prior to this, I had been watching the news and been seeing signs on the freeway where they said like hurricane forming in the Gulf, be prepared. And I called my cousin and I called my friend, and both of them, they were like, you know what, don't let the news scare you. They're overreacting. Nothing never happens. We never flood. Don't worry about it. And I was like, all right. I brushed it off. I didn't worry about it until like the day before. I'm at Home Depot and I'm in line, and everybody in front of me and everybody behind me have water cases. Like just the carts are just full of water cases. I see a forklift coming in with pallets of water cases. And I'm like, maybe I should grab some waters. So I just grabbed like 2 cases of waters, threw them in my cart, and then went home. And the next day, the day of Hurricane Harvey, I think it was maybe raining in the morning, but it went away. The sun came out. So at that moment, like, I'm not even tripping, you know, it's like a regular Houston weather. It was raining, now it's sunny. So me and the person that I was with at the moment, let's just call her S. Me and S, I think we even went out, had some dinner, some dinner, some sushi, and then we came back, and then it did start raining. Once we got home, it started raining, and it was the night of the fight, Conor McGregor versus Mayweather. It was that day of, the night of. So we stayed in, we watched the fight, drank some wine, passed out, and then I wake up the next morning and I go to the living room and I turn on the TV, and the news is just showing like footage of just flood areas. And at this moment it's raining, and it's been raining all night, like a lot. So it's still raining, but I look outside my window to the backyard and it's not flooded. Like I don't see any water rising, so I'm like, oh, we good. And I'm watching the news and they're showing all these areas of floods, but I'm thinking like in San Diego when they show like when it rains a little bit, and then they'll show like Fashion Valley and then some areas where it floods easily. So I'm thinking maybe they're just doing that. So I stopped watching the news, and I'm watching like, I threw on Narcos on Netflix. And I'm watching Narcos, and then S comes out of the room, and then she's like, hey, did you throw something in the toilet? Because the toilet is clogged. And I'm like, no, I didn't throw anything. Did you throw something in the toilet? I didn't throw anything. Got a little argument going on there. And then I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to go to Home Depot. I'm going to go get a plunger. I'll unplug it. Fuck it. And then I open the front door, and I just see water everywhere. Just like, what the fuck? The water was this much to go over my door to just start going in the house. And because the house was on a level like this, and the front yard was like on a little slope, the driveway. So you would have to drive up and then walk into my house, and it was level, and the backyard is level to the house. So that's why it didn't flood in the back. It didn't look like it was flooding in the back, but the front was completely flooded up to the door. And if I would have like rolled my truck back, I would have to submerge, and I probably would have gotten stuck. So I was like, I can't even get out of here. So I just turned around and I closed the door, and I told us, oh shit, we're fucking flooding. And at that moment I called my uncle back, because they had all been calling my mom, my sister, my brothers, my aunt. They were all calling me like, hey, fool, are you good? It's fucking flooding over there. And I'm like, I even got mad at them. I'm like, no, stop calling. I'm fucking fine. So I called my uncle back right away. And I'm like, hey, tío, ¿sabe qué? Like, I am flooding. And he's like, what? He's like, how bad is it? Boo, boo, boo. And then he's like, well, just try to stay there, and just, if it gets worse, just go in the attic, he said. And he's like, bring a hammer just in case the water rises up to the ceiling. You're able to escape through the roof, break a hole, and get out through the roof just in case. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay, but the water wasn't coming in, so he's like, just chill. If the water's not coming in, then just fucking chill. And then he's like, even me, my house, usually the water goes in a little bit, but it's not a big deal. I never leave. So I'm like, okay, we're good then. So I tell S, you know what, relax, chill, go to the room, lay down. I'll let you know if it starts getting worse. And I'm laying there watching Narcos, and there's this door to the door to my backyard. It's a glass panel, so I could see everything in the back, and it starts flooding. In the backyard now is starting to flood, and I could see the water through the glass panel just going up and down, going higher. And I'm just thinking like, fuck. because I had grabbed some like concrete bags to hold the door back because I didn't have no sandbags. So I never prepped. So I had some concrete bags in the garage because I was working at my house. So I put them for the on the door, just like kind of as sandbags. Not even like two of them on each door, but it was holding it back pretty good. I was even tripping like, damn, these doors are freaking good. They're holding back that water because I could see the water through the glass panel, like already like about a foot high. And I know how to build houses, so I'm thinking like, why isn't the fucking water going through under the bottom plate, the wood? Like it should be going water, but I didn't know until I demoed the house later that in Texas or flood areas they'll put like a waterproof layer around the whole house, like 2 feet high, so that in case this happens, the water won't go in. So the water is just rising. I'm like, what the fuck? Tripping. I'm like, we're good. If it starts raining right now, we'll be good. That's what I kept telling myself. And then all of a sudden, I guess the water outside reaches that waterproof layer and it just starts pouring in. And it just starts coming from the bottom place, just submerging. And I could hear S just like, she screams out, oh shit, the water's coming in. And I'm like, fuck. And it was like Terminator 2, because it was like puddles over here, and they were just connecting together. Everything was just connecting until there was no more dry spots. And I could hear S in the bedroom. She's already calling 911, but they're not coming. I don't know what they're telling her, but they're not gonna show up at all. And I'm just like in denial at this moment. Like, man, if it starts raining right now, if it starts raining, we'll be fine. I just kept telling myself that, and I'm just laying there watching Narcos, trying to forget this shit. And I just start seeing my chanclas and shit just floating around. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And the water starts rising inside the house. And it's about to get to the outlet. So I'm like, fuck, I don't know what's going to happen if it gets to the outlet. So I just go outside, fucking water up to my knees. And then I grab like a stick and I just shut down the freaking main power. And I turn it off. So now we have no power in the house. And the water's rising. Ed's is fucking panicking. We don't know what to do. So she's panicking, and I don't know how to swim. She don't fucking know how to swim for shit either. So I'm like, fuck, it's up to me to like keep both of us safe. So I told her like, look, just calm the fuck down, chill out, because anybody that's gonna die in this is the people that panic. So don't panic, just relax, just keep cool. And she kind of relaxed, and I kind of relaxed myself just by saying that because I was panicking too. So we're just in the house and the water keeps rising, and now it's up to our knees in the house and it keeps rising. So we're like, and now it's getting to the point where like water is starting to come out of the toilet, like nasty water. So you can see like the water around the toilet, it's like yellowish. So I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like, oh, we need to get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit. And the water, mind you, it's warm. It's really warm. It's not like the Titanic where it was fucking freezing. Like, you're running around in cold water, or when you go swimming in the beach over the Pacific Beach in San Diego or LA. It's not cold. This shit was warm as fuck. It was nice. It was nice fucking water. That's the only good thing I have to say about this shit. This shit was warm. It's soothing. But, so now we're walking in this water, and so I'm like, we gotta get out of here. So, I didn't want to go in the attic. Honestly, I'm afraid of rats. So I was like, I'm not gonna run into no rats up there. Plus, we have no power anymore. It's gonna be dark up there. I don't know. I don't want to go up there. And it gets stuck, and now I have to break through the roof. It sounded crazy. So I'm like, fuck that. So S is like, let's go to the neighbor's house, because the neighbor had a 2-story house. And I didn't really want to go, but she ran over there, so I kind of go over there, knock on the door, and then as soon as the door opens, the guy's like, come on in. So we go in, we go up to the upstairs, because this first floor was already flooded too. And I just kind of sit by the window, and I'm just sitting by the window, and they have a lot of kids. There was like 5 little kids there, so they're just running around, screaming, writing on walls, doing the most. So I'm like, fuck, I'm getting anxiety right here. Excuse me. So I'm just like looking out the window, and I'm watching like, and I see a rescue boat. It was like not like a motor boat, but it was like a little floating boat. And I'm like, oh shit, a boat! And I run out. Ez runs after me, and then I'm like, hey, we need help. And the guy's like, all right, hop on. And then Ez is like, oh wait, we have like 5 kids in there, and there's like 2 old people in there. There's like 10 people. And the guy's like, how many are you guys are there? And then she's like, oh, there's like 12. And then he's like, ooh. And he's like, you know what? We gonna need a little bigger boat. So he's like, I'll be right back. This guy never comes back, never even floats by there anymore. Or paddles, whatever the fuck it was. And so I'm like, I told her, like, what the hell did you say anything? Like, we should have just hopped on. Like, I kind of was like, forget about him, you know, like, I'm a dick. She's like, what the fuck? We're not gonna leave him. And I'm like, right, whatever, okay, fine. So we're just standing there like now, waiting for this boat that's never gonna come. And we're just ready. She's like, she tells the old lady, "Oh, go get your stuff," because they're like Mexican, so they don't speak English. So like, go get your stuff. And they're from like Oaxaca, so they were kind of like looking at us like, honestly, I feel like this happens a lot in their town, like where they flood, because they weren't really tripping. They were kind of looking at us like, "Fool, it's just fucking water. Like, relax." Like, you know what I mean? They were looking at us like, and everybody else like that. Because we told them like, "Hey, the boat's coming. Go get your stuff. We're gonna leave." And they're like, nah, estamos bien, we're good, we're gonna stay here. And I'm like, dude, there's gonna be no power. Nobody's gonna be like, we're fine. They're like, we got candles. They're like, they're not tripping whatsoever. They're chilling. The kids that were swimming out, because there was some kids swimming. When this barely started, there was some kids swimming. It was their kids. They were swimming in the water before it kind of rose that high. Before it started coming in my house, they were swimming, and there were some other people using jet skis. So I thought it was normal, but that was before the water started coming in my house. So these people are kind of like looking at us like, what are you guys tripping about? So we're just waiting for this boat. It's not coming. They didn't want to come. They're like, we're gonna stay. They kind of said like, oh, we're gonna have our families gonna come pick us up, but nobody's gonna come pick you up in a big truck. But I came to find out later that nobody came. They just stayed, wrote it out. God bless them. But it's getting dark, and I remember in the news they were saying like there was gonna be no more search rescues at night. So I'm like thinking like, fuck, it's gonna get dark. I don't want to stay in their house. They got a lot going on there, and I don't want to have to stay in my attic or freaking in my roof. At this point, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to stay in my roof because the water is still rising. And then I kind of was like, man, there's like a fire department like a mile away from where I lived. Right, because it's this neighborhood, and there was like one entrance to this neighborhood, and right in the entrance there's a fire department. So I'm thinking that that's where the safety boats are going and coming from, because I could see him like over there in the corner. This guy's not turning into my street anymore. This guy's like, fuck this shit. He's just going through back and forth, and I could see him in the corner. So I told him, look, I think they're freaking going to the fire department. Let's go over there. And she's kind of like, oh, I don't know, what is it? It's not going there, but I don't want to swim over. She's freaking out. So I'm like, look, okay, I'm going to swim over there to the corner, make sure that that's where they're going, and then I'll come back and get you. And she's like, all right, cool. So I go over there, I swim to the corner, and at that time, that same safety guy boat's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey, where are you guys going? Where are you guys taking everybody? And he's like, yep, just go to the fire department. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I swam back, and I told Des, and I got Des, and I was like, hey, we got to go to the fire department. That's where they're taking everybody. And we told them, the people in the house, and they're like, we're gonna stay. Thank you very much, but we are staying. And I'm like, I told us like, let's get the hell out of here. Forget them. And cause she's still trying to fucking bring them. And I told her, look, if you fall, cause I'm not a very good swimmer, and she's not at all. So I'm like, look, if you fall, don't panic, cause the water's only up to the chest. You know what I mean? So I told her, look, if you fall and trip, just stand up. Don't fucking freak out. Just stand up. You'll be fine. You're not gonna drown in this water. It's not that deep, so just relax. And she kind of got herself together. She's like, all right, let's do this. And we started walking to the corner to make that right to go to the fire department. It was like a mile. To get to the fire department, it's like a mile. So we're walking, the water's like this high. And at that moment, like 3-4 houses down from ours, there's this black lady. She's just old black lady. She's just standing by the door, and she's like, where are you guys going? And then we're like, we're going to the fire department, because it's getting dark. They're gonna stop searching, so we gotta go over there before it gets dark. Because they had also said that there was crocodiles and snakes in this water. So I'm like, man, we gotta get the fuck up out of this water. So she's like, oh, can I come with you? And then Ace like, yeah, let's go. She starts recruiting people. And the old man too, he starts coming. So Ace and the old lady are grabbing onto hands, and they're walking together now, and I'm just leading the pack. And I turn around, by this time I turn around, and like the whole block is now coming. Like I guess they've seen us, and then everybody's just like, fuck it, let's just follow them, or yes, let's just get the hell out of here. Because at this point, the whole neighborhood's behind me. They got crates that float, and that's where they're putting their puppies and their cats, and they're walking with it. And then we're all just walking through the middle of the street, water like up to here. And I remember seeing the Coast Guard helicopter above us, and like he was just barely hovering, so I could see this guy clearly, and he's filming us. And I just remember at that moment thinking back to like Hurricane Katrina, when I seen the people on the news, how they were like, and the water was like that. I was like, shit, I'm one of these guys now, because I had a backpack on my fucking head with my stuff. And finally we make it to the fire department, and there's a school bus there. We didn't even ask. We just kind of got on the bus. We sat down, and by this time, it's getting dark. By this time, it's dark as hell. And the bus takes us to this like it's like an elementary. They have like this auditorium, and they take us to this auditorium. By this time it's like 8:39, and it's dark. And we get there, and this is one of the most ghettoest shelters I've ever seen. We get there, and like there's like one cop. There's like one cop, and he's not tripping. He can't trip. There's like 100 people, over 100 people here, and it's just him. So he's not really tripping. I'm telling you, there was drugs being sold right then and there in front of him. Like drugs being sold. There's dice being shot. There's fights going on, arguments going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in this shelter that, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh man, I told that, like, well, we can't stay here. Like, I ain't staying here. Fuck that shit. And she's like, my friends are like, her friends had called her, her coworker called her, and they said like they were trying to pick us up, but they couldn't get to the shelter because it was all flooded, and they were like 2 miles down the road, like that same road we were in, just straight 2 miles down. They told us like, this is as far as we can get. If you could come to us, we'll wait. And I told us, tell them to wait for us. We're gonna go over there. And fucking because they were just giving cardboards out in the shelter. They were just giving you like a cardboard and just telling you to find a spot to lay. So I'm like, man, I'm not staying here. It's still early. It's 9 o'clock. It's a 2-mile walk. Water up to your waist. I'm like, we can make it. Let's go. And she's like, oh, okay, let's roll. And then we go outside, and there was this dude out there smoking. And I told him, hey man, because we didn't know the area. So I'm like, hey man, how do I get to this street? And he's like, oh, just take this street straight. Just take it straight down all the way till you hit it. And he's like, hey man, but you gonna walk over there? Cause that's pretty far. And I'm like, yeah man. He's like, fuck, that's far, but yeah, fuck, yeah, it's that way, bro. Walk that way. And I'm like, fuck it, all right. And me and Ness, we start walking. The water's right here, and it's a little more freaking. The water's a little more stronger and it's moving a lot more because there's a lot of cars and like military starting to show up. So they're making a lot of waves. So the water's a little more like, it's just wavy and shit. So we're walking in the water. And then we didn't walk too long. We must have walked like three blocks before there was this pickup, like a lifted pickup that drove by, and it was this white guy and a white lady, and they were in there, and I flagged them down, like we waved them down, and then I told him, hey, can we get a ride to this street, whatever the street was? And then he's like, yeah, hop on the back. So me and us hop on the back of the bed in the truck, and it's fucking still raining. It's been pouring, so we're soaked. We're just like, just fucking soaked. They drop us off right where her friends were at, her coworkers, and we hop in their car, and we're not out of the woodworks yet, because by the time that they were waiting for us for a while there, that the road that they got there through had already flooded too. So we can't get out of where we're at now, because we're driving through streets, and some of them are flooded. We're like, oh shit, so we got to turn back, and we can't get anywhere. We're kind of just stuck in this little neighborhood. And then the off-ramp, over here in Texas, the off-ramps, they go down under the bridge, and then you go up and you get on the freeway. So that off-ramp, it'll flood. It'll have like a scale right there. It'll say 5, 10, 15, 20 feet. Like, this thing will flood completely. Like, this is where people died, where they say that people flooded and drowned and died. These are the spots, because like they look like they'll go straight, but you just dip down all of a sudden. So we kind of just were like, oh shit, she's like, this is where we came from. I don't know how to get the hell out of here. And there was like absolutely no law in Houston for this, for like about 2 days. It was like, you could do whatever the hell you want. You could have done anything. There was looting going on. You could have murdered somebody. And honestly, you probably could have gotten away with it, because there was just absolutely no law out there at all going on. It's fucking the Wild West. So we kind of just were like, fuck it. I told him, bust a bitch and just get in the freeway on the wrong opposite side. So we busted a bitch, got on the freeway, and then we're driving on the opposite side. There's some cars coming, but they're coming slow too. They're kind of just like trying to find a fucking route. They're lost too, so everybody's just driving, like, just getting out of each other's ways. And it's just mayhem in the fucking freeway. Finally, we get to where they're at, to her house, and we stayed there for like about 3 days. We stayed there 3 days. And then we decided to go back. That all happened like on a Sunday. And this was like Wednesday morning, so we're like, let's go check out the house. I think we could go back now, because it stopped raining like about a day or two. So we drove back, and then once we got into that neighborhood, that one entrance that I told you from the fire department, once we got into our neighborhood, we just started seeing like piles of like furniture, sheetrock, carpet, just anything. In front of everybody's houses, there was just giant piles of stuff. And it looked like a freaking bomb had just exploded, and it was just piles and piles and piles of stuff in front of like the sidewalk. in front of people's every single houses, and we're like, what the fuck? We're driving through, and we get there to our house, and the water had gone up about, I think it went up to maybe like about 3-4 feet at the end, because you could see the water line where the water line sat. And we were fresh to go. I mean, we started demoing our house too, taking our stuff, made our own big old pile in the front for FEMA to come check it out, and the city to just come. It took like 2-3 months for them to come clear everything up. It took a while. Those things, it was nasty for a while out there. And I ended up fixing my own house, because I work construction, so I ended up fixing my own house. And then once I finished my house, a lot of people started calling me to help them out in their house, and that's kind of how I started my business. So to me, it was kind of a blessing in disguise. So, you know what I mean? Hurricane Harvey, it was all good to me at the end. And I also ended up being in a documentary video that they made. So I got no complaints about Hurricane Harvey. No, it was a nice little welcoming party from Houston. You know, showed up. I felt at home. You know, I missed the water, so the water came to me, and that's how I took it and shit. But that's the story. That's how I survived Hurricane Harvey. I hope you like it, and check you out in the next one.